Recording in progress.
Let's see. Can you speak? I'm not hearing you right now.
I am speaking. I am yapping away.
Okay, let me try that again. Okay, so I'm not hearing you right now, Barry.
That's because I'm not talking right now. I wasn't. Let me confirm that I am. Audio settings. Yeah, I'm talking. Let's see. Do I have a green line around me?
All right, let me try something else.
Says I'm talking. Captions show captions show that I was talking. Looking at captions. Turn your captions on. La-di-da, la-di-da. La-di-da, la-di-da. There you go. You're muted. You're muted.
Okay, so now I'm on my iPhone.
All right, now can you hear me?
Yes.
So the other one, you didn't have the speakers turned on or volume up or some crazy thing. Select the speaker, select the earphones, turn the volume up on whatever you selected.
Yeah, I believe I know how to do that, and so I still have to debug it.
Turn the captions on. You can see the captions if people are talking.
Right.
Read the captions, and then till you figure out how to turn the speakers on.
Yep.
Speakers,
well,
Bluetooth.
This way I can actually go anywhere. See, I'm actually in a corner right now. I'm in the corner of the place. So here's one wall, and then here's a window behind me.
And the no ducks.
And there's another corner wall. So I'm actually in a corner right now.
With the no duck farm.
Yep. Unfortunately,
The dead duck.
They all got preyed upon.
Well, see, that's because you don't believe in religion and they preyed upon you and you didn't get the answer you expected.
That's one interpretation.
See?
Not the one I would have subscribed to.
They got preyed upon and you don't believe in prayer.
Now you're onto something, Barry.
See?
I should study that.
The problem is there are too many homonyms in English.
That's because we're so simple. We only have how many phonemes? 40 something?
Like 42? I don't forget the number. It might have been like 42. Yeah. Maybe fewer.
Yeah. Yo, how many phonemes do humans have? Phonemes. Can we actually speak?
How many phone numbers can I have?
I don't know. Gail doesn't know either.
Oh, Gail, I thought you were asking ChatGPT. How much?
Yes. Yeah, phonemes. Out of one's mouth.
Phonemes do humans have? Let's see what ChatGPT says.
Right. You can only learn some when you're a kid. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Then since I don't have to be on the laptop.
English
40 to 60?
English has 44, but languages vary from 20 to 60 in use, but English has about 44. Hawaiian
Right,
has as few as 13. Some languages with phonological systems may have more than 100 phonemes. So probably and languages like Chinese, which have inflections, have a lot, and Hawaiian only has 13.
Yeah. Mele, ke, ko, ma.
Yeah, it basically depends on whether inflections count as distinct meanings.
Ko, wa, le, yeah, you can go basically through a city block, name all the streets, and those are all the phonemes. In Hawaiian, there are 13 phonemes.
That's what it
13.
says.
And in English, there's 40 something.
Yeah, ChatGPT says 44.
Don't know.
It says around 44. I think it depends on the regional dialect. Like, for example, in Boston, they have there's two kinds of R. Rotive, I can't remember the name of them, but there's the R that you do pronounce that's there, the R that you don't pronounce that's there, and the R that you pronounce that's not there.
And the one that's at the end that's pronounced like an A.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the one that you don't pronounce it even though it's in the word. And then the ones that the R that you say that's not in the word. And then there's kind of a trilling R. I don't know. Boston has 3 different kinds of R.
And
And
not
is
to
it
mention the German
Japanese
R.
is it Japanese that R comes out as L for a lot of Japanese speakers?
Yeah, because they can't hear the difference. Something like that. And then there's
L
the
and
German
R are too close
hard
together.
R, which is a guttural R.
There's a trill, the rolling R. I don't know.
Like,
There
you know that?
there's technical names for these funky little perturbations of the different phonemes.
Hey, you're digging into my nuts.
Pakyaka and Harvard Yard
You're stealing my
and
nuts.
Cuba. The country of Cuba where you park your car to Harvard Yard. It's crazy. It's amazing that people can understand each other at all.
I once said something like, get out of here. And somebody
Get
said that
out
was
of
a
here. Get out.
New
That's one
Jersey
word. Get
kind
out of here.
accent.
One word.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Oh, there's Gail. I think that's Gail.
Yeah.
Gail?
He's eating my nuts.
Yeah. She has short hair, so from this distance, it could be male or female. You can't see enough detail to tell if it's masculine or feminine.
She's letting the dogs out one by one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is Saturday, so I thought usually. Yeah, do that louder, Barry.
Who let the dogs out? Oh.
All right, so let me just see what's on the
Agenda.
zeitgeist, because I don't come to Saturdays generally with a question. I normally do that on Sundays. I do have questions, but I don't necessarily need to drive it that way on Saturdays. All right, just in case, I'll go back to my notes from this week.
Well, there's lots of unanswered questions or questions for which the answers are ambiguous or undecodable.
How many of those do you have, Corey?
Well, actually, I have not so many questions. I have a list of problems that are known to have never been solved. I have a list of 12 long-standing unsolved problems in human civilization. My list is 12, but that's just my list. Other people have different lists.
Okay, so you normally claim you're in a state of being vexed and perplexed.
And confused.
So how many such conditions or situations put you in that vexed and perplexed condition?
Well, how many people do I have conversations with? That many.
So it's me.
among others. I mean, Colin was sort of the poster child for what the hell's he talking about? But he's not the only one. There's this other guy, Esteban Trev. I don't know if you recognize his name or not.
I do. I could
Esteban
never figure
Trev
out
is
what Esteban was saying.
completely, and he has two modes. He can write in completely coherent, normal English text, and then he can write in this funky little private language of his that nobody knows what he's saying.
Well,
And
he
and
writes
he's
very long sentences. I know this is being recorded, okay? But for me, he writes very long sentences. He covers pretty much all combinations of possibility. And so basically everything he says appears to me like a tautology. It doesn't actually make a focal point.
Yeah, a lot of words with zero information content. He doesn't resolve any uncertainty in the mind of the listener. In fact, he increases the uncertainty because you don't know what the hell he's talking about. And he does it on purpose. He actually knows that he has these two modes. He admits he has these two modes, and more often than not, he chooses the gibberish mode. But if it's important, he can write in clear paragraphs. It's not that he can't; he
So
just doesn't. Chooses not to.
one possible topic is we could both rant about who confuses us.
In fact, he has a name for that mode. I don't know if I can remember the name of it now. I can look it up. But he has a name for that weird mode of his.
Is it unique to him or is it something that's common?
Well, no, the name of it is a real word. I'd have to go look it up. I don't remember what he calls it, but
Have
he
you
wants to
recognized this in other people?
recognize what?
Have you recognized that pattern of communication or that
It's
communication
unique to
style
him.
in other people?
No, it's unique to him. If you see him writing, if you see anybody writing that mode, it's only Esteban can write in that style. And
Yeah,
if
to
you,
be honest, I've not encountered any others like that myself.
I mean, Colin has his own style of talking in phrases that don't make complete sentences. It's a little bit like rapping. There's a guy who can rap indefinitely. You can give him a prompt, and he can rap in rhyme to a prompt indefinitely. And I think he has a video where he does it for hours or something. And that's another thing where you can just talk in what sort of like scat singing, where they're not real words, but this guy does real words in phrases in rhyming rap. It's a little like poetry. It doesn't actually have to be a complete sentence, complete thought. It's just phrases. If I remember, I'll look up the term that Esteban uses to characterize his weird writing style.
I'm trying to get some coffee started here.
It's not important to know the name of it, except that it has a name.
Well, it's interesting because this is part of the problem with people collaborating is first, in order to collaborate, I at least believe in the premise that in order to collaborate, you have to at least communicate at some level. Without communication, without information flow, without decoding some kind of a signal, I don't consider anything collaboration. At best, then it's arbitrary or random.
Or ambiguous. I mean, politicians are gifted at using a lot of words to say nothing dispositive. You can't get their position because they're so ambiguous that they haven't really said anything.
Okay, so that's a pathological corner case, I think, of communication.
That's you faded. That's a dot dot dot.
Okay, sorry. I said that's a pathological corner case. I don't even consider that communication, but
It's not pathological in the sense that they don't know they're doing it. They're doing it very carefully, conscientiously, and for the intention of not answering a question, intentionally not answering a question, not
or
revealing
not
it.
being pinned down to a position.
Correct. It's called weasel wording. That's the other word. They're very good at weasel wording.
Well, no, wait a minute. Okay, so there's one extreme, which is what we are calling political doublespeak. Okay,
Yeah.
there's another one which is more scientific or logically clear, which is if you have a reason to say something, but you don't have 100% proof, then you have a caveat that says it's probably this, or it's most likely that. And that sounds weaselly to people who like certainty. I think I'm guilty of this. I use those words when I don't have absolute certainty, and it pisses off certain people because it sounds like I'm not confident. And sometimes in business, confidence is what people are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, you can say to the best of my knowledge or to my mind, dot, dot, dot,
Right,
which means
right,
this is my understanding, which is not guaranteed to be authoritative.
right. Which is what I say, and that does piss people off.
Oh, well, it doesn't get,
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't prefix an assertion with to my mind, I sometimes get called that you should say to my mind before you say that. Because it's not guaranteed to be, the ground truth.
So
And I know
depending on
it's not guaranteed.
context,
Sorry?
and depending on context,
Yeah.
depending on the audience,
I mean,
there's
if
a
somebody says, how do you
expectation.
feel about X? Then I don't need to say to my mind, I feel this, because it's obvious.
Right.
It's how do I feel?
Right.
But if I'm asked to bear witness to some objective thing, to the best of my knowledge, this is what I saw. I don't usually bother to prefix it, but it's pretty obvious that is to the
Right.
best of my ability to attend and interpret what I saw. And I know, by the way, and this is what I should say more often, I'm a terrible listener. So if somebody gives me oral information, I'm very likely not to capture uh, the the correct or nuanced interpretation of what they said orally. Well, last night we were playing D&D, and the DM took me aside to disclose something privately, which didn't need to be kept a secret. But then when I went back to recite it to the rest of the players, I couldn't recite correctly what he had said to me orally. I would substitute synonyms where he didn't want me to substitute a synonym. Where the synonyms that I was using interchangeably, he thought were significantly different references. So we were talking about being possessed. So the character was possessed, but he wasn't possessed by a fiend or a demon. He was possessed by something that was other than the normal things that you can list as possessors. And there's this list, undead and fiend and demon and dot, dot, dot. And this character was possessed by something other than anything recognizable. So I was simply saying possessed by a fiend or a demon. He says, no, it's not a fiend or a demon. It's something other than what you can recognize. And we had to go over this notion that you can't just interchange the species of possessor.
Okay, let me play this game with you then. Can you be obsessed by an idea?
Obsessed or possessed?
Okay, possessed. Let's say, since you're talking about possession, right?
Yeah.
In this game. Okay, can you be possessed by an idea?
I think you can be obsessed with an idea, but possessed means an external entity, what they would call a spirit, has gotten into you and has basically taken over control of your brain so that you're basically being turned into a puppet or robot of the possessing entity.
Okay, can you be possessed by paranoia?
Well, that depends on whether you characterize paranoia as an external influence. I guess it can be if the paranoia is inculcated by an authority figure. Who is it? Rosie O'Donnell used to say, "Be afraid, be very afraid." That was one of her catchphrases.
I think it's for her.
Yeah, but the point is that an external authority can inculcate a fear that wasn't there all by itself. In that case, I guess I would call that being possessed by an externally implanted fear that's not objectively sustainable.
Okay, so if paranoia is allowed in that context, was paranoia on that list of allowed possessed causes?
No, No, in the D&D game, there is in the definition of D&D a list of little creatures, species of creatures that are defined. And they are the kinds of things that can possess a character, sort of basically take over control of their brain and behavior. In this particular storyline, there was a possession, but the possession was by something that was so primordial that it wasn't in the list of currently known possessing creatures.
Okay.
And they called it
Another
primordial, but
digression.
that's not its name. That was just a characterization of it.
Okay, then another digression since this is Saturday. Did you ever read a short story or novella by Robert Heinlein called The Puppet Masters?
I don't think I've ever even heard of it before. Maybe I've heard of it, but I don't certainly not familiar.
Do you know who Heinlein is?
Yeah, Robert Heinlein was a sci-fi writer. What was his most famous? I'm not sure if I can.
Stranger in a Strange Land.
Okay. Yeah. The thing is, I never actually read a lot of sci-fi, so I'm kind of have a poor level of knowledge of sci-fi genres and writers.
That's a big gaping hole in your experience.
I know, but the thing is that I spent my time reading, academic material that I could make a
What
living.
about when you were young? What about when you were in elementary school or junior high?
The first novels I read was either I think it was Tom Sawyer. I don't think it was Huckleberry Thing. It was Tom Sawyer and some of the Sherlock Holmes stories. Those are the first fiction that I can recall reading. Tom Sawyer.
No, that's still pretty sophisticated. There's still more reading at the elementary level that should have presaged those books.
Well, if you want to talk about McGuffey's Reader or Dick and Jane, those are made up stories, but they're fables. I mean, there's things like fairy tales and fables. Those were actually read. They were read to you or told to you. I don't recall actually reading with my own eyes.
Do you ever recall a series of books called Encyclopedia Brown?
I heard about them, but I learned about them as an adult from other people.
Those are very good for young readers,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
When I was young, for some strange reason, we had children's books. They were basically picture books, and I can remember picture books that my parents bought. One was had to do with watchbirds. This is a watchbird watching X. This is a watchbird watching you. But they were few and far between. By the time I actually was doing serious reading, sort of my fourth grade maybe, I wasn't reading books that my parents bought for my brother or me.
Do you remember Freddie the Pig?
Never heard of Freddie the Pig.
Do you remember Charlotte's Web?
I know of Charlotte's Web, but I think I learned about it as a young adult or adult.
You never read that as a kid?
I never read that. I never read. Well, I remember the name of the author of that stuff. Who wrote Charlotte's Web?
Charlotte Bronte.
I was going to say that was what was coming to mind, but I didn't say the name because I wasn't sure. Anyhow, I never read Charlotte Bronte or any of Charlotte Bronte's stuff. I never even read Dr. Seuss. When I was in, I think, fifth grade.
What?
Let me tell you the story.
What?
Let me tell you the story.
Barry, you got a lot of life ahead of you, Barry.
When I was in fifth grade, we had our room was also the library. That is, around the walls of the room were just shelves so we didn't have a separate.
That's a great room.
So anyhow, in the library there was on the shelf the whole series of Dr. Seuss books, and I remember seeing them there, and I knew that they were for children. But by the time I was in fifth grade, it was like age 12. I thought, oh, but these are for children, and I'm too old to read these now.
Too childish, yeah.
Too childish. So I never possessed a copy, but I saw them on the shelf when I was in fifth grade, and never picked one up to read.
Because those are for children, but they're also very, very, very much for children of all ages.
Yeah.
The message is deep.
So, for example, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I think most of that stuff I got through like Disney material, but not by direct reading until much later in life.
And not the Velveteen Rabbit?
I learned about Velveteen Rabbit. I learned about most of these as an adult.
And not having reproduced yourself, maybe you didn't go through that stage where you read these?
Well, if I had had children, either my own or somebody else's children, for a long enough time, I might have gone through a period of reading to children. But I never really had much of an opportunity to read children's books to children.
And you didn't borrow other people's kids often enough. Then.
Well, I had for about a year. I was in a relationship with a woman who had, at the time, a 3-year-old, and I think a 5-year-old, and I had access to them for about a year. But during that time, I could interact with them, but I didn't really spend a whole lot of time reading to them in that brief interlude where I was playing a parenting role to them because the mother was divorced. And the children really wanted a father figure. They didn't. The biological father was removed from access to him when the mother and the father got divorced. She basically blocked him from having any access to the children. So the children were devoid of a father figure. And
Is that a formal
up,
restraining order?
I don't. Well, for example, she would intercede in the mailbox and remove any incoming mail from him. She would, if he tried to call, presumably she would answer the phone and not put them through. So basically, he was denied access to the children. And I don't know for sure, but I think he might have moved out of state eventually to just get away from her. But the children were very much in need of a father, and I ended up playing that role without realizing exactly the import of that role until it was sort of pretty obvious that in fact, after I reconnected with them as young adults, the older daughter said, she says, I lost 2 fathers, her biological father and then me as a surrogate father. And she says, I lost 2 fathers. And that's sort of what realized that, how important it was for them to have a male father figure in their life that was absent. And I was only in that role for about a year when they were like, I don't know, the youngest one was like 3 to 5, and the oldest one was like, I don't know, 5 to 7 or something.
Those are formative years, yeah.
Formative years. And during that time, I tried to play the role of a male parent, but I have no way to know how effective it was, except that the older one said she lost 2 fathers.
Yeah.
But they did survive, growing up with that system or that dysfunction. By the way, that's one of the reasons. What I learned is that that I related very well to children. See, I didn't have any children, so I didn't know whether or not I would. And I found out that I related very nicely to at least these 2 children, and that's why when I did things like Micromuse and the Science Museum, I was very much aware of interacting with young people in a sort of a mentoring or parenting or adult educating role. And I found out I was okay. I could do that. At least maybe not for every child, but for a fair number. Micromuse, we had a lot of young people who were desperate for an adult father figure or mentor role. That their real parents basically had a sort of a gap in the role that they might have played for their children. I wouldn't call them orphans, but they were sort of functionally orphaned, as it were.
Is the mother still alive?
Yeah, as far as I know, the last time I checked, her Facebook account was still active. I can see her Facebook page, and as far as I know, she would be about 70. Let's see, she was about 2 or 3 years younger than me, so she'd be like 76. As far as I know,
those kids would be what?
Kids are in the late 30s, early 40s. I think one of them was born in 1980. Well, I think the youngest one was born in 1980 or around 1980. So work out, was that 43 years old? 44. So the youngest one, I think, is in her early to mid 40s, and the older one has got to be in the upper 40s, pushing 50. I mean, the kids that I knew on Micromuse, for example, because of Eric, I logged on to Micromuse a few times to pick up some stuff. And the last time I logged on, which was just, I mean, yesterday or the day before, there was a chap on whose name was Pep, and I saw his real name. He had been on in 1995, probably as a teenager, I'm going to say, probably around 15, 16, guessing. So you figure it out, 95, that's 30 years. So he's like, what, 30 and 15 is 40. He'd be like 45 years old today.
Mhm.
And he's, he was really thrilled to see me on because I'm hardly on anymore. And I looked at him, I said, oh, you've been on this system for, 30 years. You still on it? Now, I'm not sure. I mean, they don't really do anything. It's a ghost town. There's only like 2 people who routinely log in, and I think they just log into multiple MUDs and just keep a window open on them, but there's hardly any traffic. But,
Wait. Are you still saying that the site is still live, independent of Barry's attempts to revive it?
I'm not attempting to, no, you're talking about Eric's attempts to revive interest in it. The site has been running since 1990 on different machines, but right now it's running on a machine in my house. But since around 2000, the amount of activity on it has dwindled to essentially ghost town level. But there's no reason, since the machine hasn't died, I haven't turned the machine off. The machine just keeps running. And this is a Sun Spark Ultra vintage machine running Solaris 5.6. And until it dies, I just leave it running.
Okay, what's the URL there? Micromuse dot something?
So micromuse.musenet.info.
Micromuse.musenet.info.
It used to be .org, but I managed to lose the .org. I forgot to renew 1 year and somebody stole it.
Okay, the Multi-User Science Education Network. I do see it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, the web. So it has a web server on it. I think the FTP.
Oh,
server,
I used to have one of these counters down at the bottom, 18,514. Man, I put one of those counters on in my very first website in 1995 or 96.
I don't know
remember
if
that
that is
web
still,
counter.
and I don't know if that counter is still ticking or not.
Probably
I
not.
checked it for a while. For a while, that was defunct, and then I think I fixed it. But I never confirmed whether or not it's still counting correctly or not.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so the website was started in 93, I think. Actually, the Apache server was installed by, I think, a 13-year-old kid on the system. He basically installed the Apache server, and it's still running a very ancient version of Apache because it's an ancient version of Solaris. And as long as the machine doesn't die, I leave it running. So Eric was on it briefly and got interested, and then I gave him a copy of the underlying software, and he got it running in Kimu a week or so
Yeah,
ago.
I saw that. I don't see a place to register though.
Well, so no, not on the website. You have to go to the Muse.
Yeah.
You have to go. You need a MUD client. Well, there's a way that you can use a free MUD client, but it's you got to get through my port forwarding thingy, so it's tricky.
So
But
there's
you can log in with a
there's
free MUD
Discworld.
client, and then the problem is that the Automagic registration is now defunct, partly because originally the automaton would send out email with your password, and being able to send out email from home machines has now been long since disabled by Verizon.
Oh, not only that, you don't have SSL turned on, so it's all out in the clear.
Well, I think the email did have SSL, but had a 30-year-old version of it. And anyhow, so the outgoing email no longer works, which means that now registration has to be done manually, which means you got to make an appointment with me or one of the other admins, and there's only one other admin. And then
that
we
is
got
a certain block to growth.
Well, I mean, even then, you could go in as a guest, you could go in as a visitor, And a visitor character could meet a mentor and request registration. And then if they met some minimum number of activities within a month, they would automatically get upgraded. All that automated stuff is kaput now. And so now, for example, when I registered Eric, I had to manually create his character, and I had to manually upgrade him from a guest or a visitor or a student to citizen. So
Oh
that he
man,
could
this is actually very readable HTML. That's nice.
It's actually, I actually wrote raw HTML back in those days.
Yeah, I know. I remember I did myself, 95, 96, HTML tables, iframes.
I don't know if the website tells you, I don't think the website actually tells you anymore how to get into
No,
the
I was trying to find a register or link or log in, and I don't see any
the
of that.
way actually you do it is on Facebook, there's a Facebook group that's publicly readable, even if you don't join, called Musers Unite. And in Musers Unite, whenever the environment changed so that, we had port forwarding and private local area networks, all that kind of nonsense.
Yep.
What I did is I created port numbers for SSH that you could get into the guest client by going to SSH with a special port number and a special account and password. And now the problem is that the encryption for SSH is a relatively obsolescent encryption method. And if you're using a late model SSH, it doesn't support a compatible encryption. So for example, when I'm on this iMac that I'm on right now, I've got to log into an intermediate machine that's about 10 years old that has a compatible SSH code. And then from that one, log into the 30-year-old machine that again has a compatible one. I can't go directly anymore from late model machines. And so for that reason, a lot of people can't get in anymore except by using a 10-year-old SSH installation. And I mean, theoretically that might be fixable, but I mean, originally we had Telnet. Of course, nobody supports Telnet anymore.
Port 25, is it? Is that still the right number?
Port 25, I think, is email. Is that email? I forget. There's 22. There's FTP, which I think is 23. 22 is SSH. Which one is one of them's email?
No, SSH is 443, isn't it?
Well, so there are two versions of SSH. There's the plain.
Yes. Yeah,
Don't ask me to recall the iNet daemon port numbers, but there's like 20.
I remember port 25, Barry. It's port 25.
Which is what? Telnet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Which one is email then? Email is also in the 20s, I think. Well,
yeah, it is.
The old email before you had SSL or whatever it was called.
Yeah. There's a port table on every machine that.
Yeah, I
haven't seen it in a long time.
I used to know them. Anyhow, the Ultra machine with Solaris 5.6 or 5.7 has really obsolescent stuff. So a lot of stuff no longer works with modern connection methods. The one thing that still works is port 80. Port 80 doesn't really care too much.
Accepts everything, HTML.
Oh, but even
recognize it or not.
But even my web server doesn't use encrypted. It's what do you call I don't know. Is it called plain? I can't remember the nomenclature, but plain text web access, not encrypted.
Yeah.
So it's port 80 is the unencrypted version.
Well, you've mapped it to port 8080. It's not port 80 anymore.
Yeah. So if you come in on port 80 on my server, I think it goes to a different machine. If you come in port 8080, it goes directly to Micromuse. And then the Muse is port 4201. And I think you can go directly, if you can have a Telnet client, or not a Telnet client, but a MUD client, you can go to port 4201 on micromuse.musenet.info, and that will get you right into the Muse. But you've got to have something like Telnet or a MUD client that goes to port 4201, and that does pass through directly.
Hey, by the way, if you're already getting awards in 1996, which meant your site was up live before then, you were one of the very early domains. I remember I registered a domain, I think in 95 or 96, for my family nonprofit. It was stonestring.org, and it was one of the first 20,000 domains on the internet, and I still have it.
I think musenet.org was maybe 92, 93 when I registered it. I
Oh,
know it
geez,
had
that's
to be at
very
least
early.
93. I know that we created the Apache web server in 93, and I would have registered the
Wait,
domain.
what do you mean we? You created? Oh, you mean you installed it? You used it. Is that what you mean?
Well, so here was the deal. First, the MIT AI lab, Hal Abelson, gave us a machine in his lab, a Motorola machine. And so we had the Muse running there in 1990 on a machine at MIT. And then eventually I got it moved first to BBN and then to UMass Lowell and out of my house.
So that was pre browser days. That was just regular BBS slash
Yeah,
text, right?
so we were on Telnet and text only until we got the Apache web server installed in 93. Before that, the only way in was FTP for the FTP files. And the Muse itself, which was port 4201. And you could log, and if I gave you an account on our machine, then I guess you telnetted in and logged in on the Unix at the Unix level. And a handful of us had Unix accounts. And I think eventually more than a dozen people, maybe two or three dozen kids had Unix accounts. And you first you telnetted in, then we got SSH, and then you SSH'd in. And eventually Telnet, I think Telnet still works.
Sure, it wouldn't go away.
Telnet still answers, although I don't know if I have it patched through. I don't know that I have Telnet patched through on my port forwarding. I don't remember now. I know I have SSH patched through with a port forwarding number. So you had to go to maybe 2022. I don't remember what I set it to. I had to look it up. But if you go to Musers Unite on Facebook and you
I just joined it, by the way. There's only 117 people on there.
Yeah, remember we're talking about 30 years later. And people are on Facebook 30 years later. So, but somewhere on Musers Unite, there's instructions on how to get in using the current configurations. What SSH port numbers to use, and what, how to get into the free client thingy. Like Eric was just using Telnet, which is a crude way to get in. It works, but it's crude. And the MUD clients are much more powerful. They have a lot of features that, unfortunately, when Eric ported it, he only ported the Muse. He didn't port the client or anything else.
Okay, so here's a question. The underlying data, the articles, the posts, whatever comments, the user information, what is that kept in? Text files or something else?
You're talking about the MUD itself?
Yes.
So the permanent database is saved in a totally flat file, a TAT ASCII readable file.
One file or multiple files? I'm assuming it's multiple.
There's a file called
What?
MDB. There's a file called MDB.
Yeah.
Stands for Muse Database. And it's everything that's saved is saved in this one flat file.
Yeah.
And you can learn to read it. It's not that hard to read it.
Okay.
But so, for example, the encrypted passwords are stored in that file. So you can find the encrypted passwords. And if you happen to know a plain text encrypted password and you can edit the MDB file, you can swap out an unknown encrypted password for a known one.
Yeah.
Then when you restart the Muse, you know that password will work for that character.
Okay, so if it's a plain text file, I assume it's ASCII. It's not
It's ASCII
Unicode,
plain text. Yep.
right? And do you know approximately how big it is? It's probably under a gig, right?
It's about a gig. It's like 900 megs, I think, or something like that.
Okay. And do you own it or is it publicly licensed?
So up until, well, I did provide copies of it to other people who were trying to port it. They were trying to, several kids tried to port it to other modern Linux machines. And so I
Hmm.
gave copies away to two or three people, one of which I recently gave a copy away to Eric.
Yeah.
And what Eric did is he ported it to Kimu and then he uploaded the Kimu to the archive database, the
Yeah,
archive.org.
I saw that. There's an
Now, if you
archive.org
if you
URL.
download that and you run Kimu and you get into the emulated Spark, you can actually read
Mhm.
the whole database. But
As one
you got to
file?
install but you got to install the Kimu first.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I was just thinking, do you have the actual text file
I do,
that,
sure.
like you said, you gave it to a few people. So if you send it to me, I could play around with it. I wouldn't try to recreate the software, but I would actually try and understand what the objects are, parse it, and then at least, develop some easy queries against it. That'd be a good exercise for me, actually.
Yeah. No, it's 30 years later, so to the extent that there's quote privilege or private information in it to the
Sure, I
characters,
understand. But I'm just
there's
saying,
some.
hey, it's something that's of interest to you. It's probably doable. It's not extremely complex. I could probably, decode it, and it'd be a nice little exercise for me.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm not too worried that people would take umbrage at releasing the raw database because I mean, it's been 30 years. But
And plus, it's
nonetheless,
publicly searchable on Usenet, right?
well, right, yeah, because Eric uploaded the Kimu package.
Hmm.
But the thing is, you have to take his QCOW2 image and either read the QCOW well, the QCOW image is a whole disk, right? So you have
Hmm.
to have a device, you have to have something that either mounts it as a drive, or you have to basically start up the whole Kimu system, then
Sure.
log in on the simulated system, and you have to know how to yeah, I mean it's Unix, so it's not that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you have,
Okay.
for example, yeah, you'd have to use the vi command or the cat command or the less. Now you don't even have less, you have more
No, no,
because
no, no. More came earlier. Less came later. Less
I
is
know the
better.
thing is that we have less on our system, but Eric didn't install the local directory that has all the extensions of
Hmm.
beyond plain vanilla Solaris. So if you try to
Hmm.
use the less command, it doesn't work. You have to use the more command.
You
If
can
if
alias
you
that.
use the
It's
vi
easy.
command, it runs out of temp space and complains because he didn't. His drive only had a fairly modest temp and var temp, and vi
Mhm.
runs out of space. It'll still edit. It just runs out of space for the.
Sure. Okay, got it. All right, Barry. It's up to you. If you'd be willing to share a copy of it, I'd be willing to tinker with
As
it.
long as you don't turn around and
No,
reveal
no, no,
what
no.
seems like
I would just let you know how far I've gotten with it and whether or not there's
it's
anything
not
useful
hard.
there. I would
If you read the raw flat file, you can recognize the beginning and end of every object. Every
sure.
object
That's what I expect.
begins
That's
with
what I
a
expect.
serial number and then the contents of the object. And some of the lines are in plain text, some of the lines are sort
Hmm.
of gibberish.
Hmm.
But the ones that are in plain text, like the description, which is just a few sentences,
Hmm.
um, so you can recognize the interesting elements of every object. Well, I'll tell you a story. There was a defunct mud of another dialect that somebody sent me that had a really nice uh, thing called the restaurant at the end of the universe, based
Yep.
on
Yep.
based on the
Galaxy,
galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
And but all it had was just a flat file. And I went through and I found every object in it
Hmm.
tediously and figured out. So it's like a disassembled jigsaw puzzle. I had all the pieces, all the objects, the rooms, the exits, the stuff in it, and each one will reference, an adjacent object. And I
Hmm.
tediously reassembled the entire restaurant at the end of the universe on Micromuse from
Hmm.
from decoding from a flat file. It took
Manually?
manually. Yeah.
Ah,
Basically,
not
all I
not
could
via
do,
scripts.
No, I basically found every object. And as soon as I found a named object that I didn't have, I go find the named object and figure out how it related, and then
Mhm.
create a duplicate of it and connect it. And at the end of the, I don't know, couple of weeks, I guess, I had the whole restaurant at the end of the universe recreated on Micromuse
Mhm.
by decompiling it. Is that what you would say? Or I don't know, decortic,
Parsing it,
parsing it,
decoding it.
by hand,
Yeah.
parsing the flat file by hand.
Now, here's another question, Barry. Do you use or do you know Emacs?
I did use it, but mainly the reason I used Emacs was it was the preferred news reader back in the
Good news. Yes, it was a very good news reader. But the reason I asked, Barry, is because in Emacs, you can write arbitrary code in eLisp, right?
I know.
So that's an easy way to parse through any random text file.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done
I
if I were
never
you.
really learned to use Emacs at a sophisticated level. I ended up using VI. I learned VI in 1980 at Bell Laboratories.
Okay, so here's an opinion is that there is no sophisticated level for VI.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
basically simple, you know?
right. And that's the one I learned. I didn't learn Emacs. I had learned VI, and that took, I don't know, a few months or however long to get.
Mhm.
And once I learned VI, and this is before Emacs was available, I never bothered to learn Emacs except to use it as a newsreader
Yeah.
in the early days.
Yeah, I think I probably still have the muscle memory for all those GDO's commands.
But I never really learned, how to do fancy stuff in Emacs.
You
And
know,
for
the
example, you had the native CC compiler, but we installed the GCC compiler of that vintage.
yep.
And one of the things that Eric found is that he tried to compile the source code in the QEMU emulator, and I think he said it. I'm not clear, but I don't think he succeeded in getting the compiler to run correctly. But
Mhm.
the compiled executable runs, as near as I can tell, flawlessly in the QEMU
Mhm.
image. The only
Mhm.
thing that doesn't work is anything that tries to use the internet. And there were a few things that tried to send out email and stuff like that. None of that stuff
Mhm.
works. And in fact, what I haven't proven is whether a network file system works from inside a QEMU to the outside world. If I can get it to work and get the permissions to go through, then I could mount the local directory from another machine here in the house, and then I would have access to all the extra extended tools that were in the user local directory. But I
Mhm.
haven't figured out. I try to do it. I try to do an NFS um, setup, and what I got is permission denied from the server, and I don't know why. I don't wasn't sure how to get the if that was the block or whether some other thing was causing permission denied.
Yeah, NFS has long been deprecated, but you could probably write an abstraction layer, or somebody could give you an abstraction layer for
Well,
that.
the other thing is I could simply tar up the local directory. I think FTP works. So I think I can suck down an FTP file
There you
and
go.
then but I would probably have to first create a second QCOW2 drive, an empty QCOW2 drive, because one of the problems is although the QCOW2 drives can expand within QEMU, the way that the drive is formatted for Solaris, I don't think you can add any cylinders to it. It has some standard number of cylinders, and that number of cylinders doesn't allow you to get up to 9 gigs or whatever. Anyhow, all I know is I couldn't figure out how to enlarge temp and var temp. I want to take a bio break. Give me about 2 minutes to
Sure,
take a bio break.
no problem.
Eric published a video just, I think, yesterday of an extended, like a 30-minute session exploring the contents of Micromuse. I don't know if you watched it.
No, I didn't.
Um, he seems, well, being a naive user and not knowing what's in the database, he found it quite charming to explore content, some created by me, most of it created by other people.
Mhm.
And I kind of forgot about a lot of the stuff because it's been so many, 2 decades or whatever. But whether anybody else would have Eric's level of enthusiasm of plumbing a defunct ghost town system from the mid 1990s, I wouldn't know how to estimate what kind of a niche audience of fanatics there would be.
That was surprising. That was definitely surprising.
I mean, it's not an easy the user interface. First of all, is text, and so it would be like learning to use the Bash shell or anything like that. It's that number of things you got to learn. It's probably easier than say the Unix shell to learn, but still you got to memorize a bunch of syntax and commands, and it's a learning curve. And I'm not sure that there's enough uh, interest except for maybe a small number of fanatics.
Yeah, I mean, these days people want to see, animation, they want to see colors, they want to see fancy fonts,
I mean,
and
Eric
that
was very impressed by the quality of the text descriptions. That the text descriptions were very vivid and beautifully written, and he was remarking how it makes the pictures in your head, from the text, which is what a good author can do. And there was a fair number of passages where he could visualize the virtual world from. We're talking about the 1980s version of text-based virtual worlds, the Zork and that kind of stuff. That's
Mhm.
basically what this was the successor to, Zork and Adventure, Colossal Cave. And that was the frontier, until about 95, when the next generation of internet multimedia started to appear. And so now you've got TikTok and what I'm talking, all these different things. And the browsers are easy to use. There's no browser. There's still, well, I don't know if Netscape exists on that system or not.
Netscape followed Mosaic, and Mosaic, I think I first downloaded in 91. And I think it was a few years later that Netscape was released.
Yeah, I don't recall. I mean, we probably did have Mosaic or Netscape installed in that era, but I don't know if it's installed on that Solaris machine. I don't. The problem is that Solaris machine, the um, the GUI doesn't work on it. The GUI stopped working, and I didn't bother to fix it because I didn't really need it. So
Was that a News GUI? Do you remember
no, no,
News?
no, 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 just the Solaris GUI. When
No,
you
do you
boot the
remember what
system,
News meant? NEWS? That was not X, I don't believe. That was Sun's own GUI windowing system.
so Sun has Common Desktop Environment (CDE), which did exist in Solaris 2.6 and does exist on the current machine, except that there's something in it that's broken. So when you boot the machine and it tries to start the GUI, it doesn't start. So you end up with just a good old-fashioned login prompt, text login. And I never bothered to fix it because I don't really need it. I mean, at one time I could do remote X login, over the
Yep,
local area network.
yep, yep.
And I did that, I don't know, 20 years ago. And
You could probably still do that.
yeah, but since the GUI broke, I never bothered to fix it because it
That's
wasn't
something
working.
you should try today, Barry. Just try, remote X into this thing and see if it's still there. Because if it's broken locally, that doesn't mean it's going to be broken remotely.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I tried it was probably more than a decade ago. And I think I probably have to go back to my El Capitan machine to try it because I don't know. The problem
Why?
is,
No. Any X server from any other machine should be able to access
yeah, you have.
the
I think
X.
the VNC programs maybe support that stuff. I have to try with VNC. But the thing is, I haven't been motivated because there just wasn't enough reason. Usually what I would do is when the power went out or something, I would restart the machine, restart the Muse, restart whatever the web servers, and I would just do that, with the telnet login until I
You
got.
shouldn't have to restart the server, right? You should just have it init on
Uh,
startup.
at one time, the init directory, is it init.d?
Yeah, yep.
Uh, most of the stuff in that worked, except that the problem was mounting user local, because user local is now being mounted from a Synology disk station. And that the problem is that things get out of sequence. It tries to use it before it's mounted. So I had to go back and do things manually because they were coming up in the correct sequence. And I said, it's not worth it. About twice a year, I have to restart that machine. Like, not worth it. Because if you try to fix it, then you got to turn the machine off and turn it back on again and see if it works. And that's like 4 or 5 cycles of trying to get it to work. And I say, I only have to do it twice
And
a year.
that's several minutes back in that technology.
Oh yeah. In fact, when you start up Kimu that Eric had, it takes about 2 minutes to start Solaris, 2 or 3 minutes, and then it takes about 5 minutes for the Muse to load, because it has to read the database and parse the database and load the objects. And that takes, I think, about 3 to 5 minutes to parse the database and load the objects. Now, I'm using a relatively slow, well,
I know.
10-year-old. I'm
Old
using
hardware,
a
yeah.
10-year-old Linux box.
All right, Barry. So how easily accessible is that MDB file? Could you like zip it up or tar it up and then just share it? Are you willing to?
What would it take me to do it? I think I can. So given
I mean,
it's,
you said you already shared it with somebody else, so you have that version of it, right?
yeah, I think there might actually be a copy of it sitting up on one of my servers. I'd have to go look because I don't remember. Because when I sent it out, I can't remember. When I sent it to Eric, how did I send? I sent an email. Let me look at my email and see if I can figure out how I sent it to him.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You do that. I'll play with it a little bit, okay, Barry? I don't guarantee
Eric,
quick results, but I will play around with it.
Eric. Um, no, let me just see what I got from my email to him. Forget how I sent it. I might have actually told him in not an email. Let's see if I can find it. Maybe I told him about it in Messenger and not in email.
By the way, if it's 1 gig of raw text, I
Yeah,
suspect compressed in a zip file is probably what, 200 megs or less?
yeah. It turned out that I had zipped it up first, and he couldn't unzip it because it was just something about the zip code was wrong. So then I sent it to him in plain text later. Let me just see if I can find it in Messenger. Let me scroll back in Messenger and see if I've got where I sent it to him.
Yeah, I mean, if you send it to him in Messenger, which I doubt because it's a large file.
No, I
Messenger
didn't
is
send it to him.
probably
I
going
told him where to find it.
Right.
Let me scroll back and see if I can find where I sent it to him.
Yeah.
So I sent him a zipped file. Where did I put it? Oh, okay. Oh, it's up on my, it's up here. Let me just give you this. I'm going to put this in. Oh, I don't want to. What can I put it that it's not public? Not going to be public. Oh, I know. I'll put it in Messenger for you.
That would work.
Oh, this is the unzipped version of it. Let me see. I got this.
Whichever.
I'm going to give you the unzipped. It's not that big. I'll give you the unzipped version. That's the raw text version. So I'm going to go to Messenger and find your name. Where's your name on Messenger? There you are. And paste that in. So this is a web link to the raw database as of February 1st, and it's the plain text. It's not the
Okay.
zip version. That's just the plain
Let me
text.
go. Let me go look for it.
I think it's still there. I don't believe I took it down, but you can confirm that it's still there. It's possible that I took it
Okay.
down. In which
Let
case I'll
me
have to go find.
The hard part here is me finding my messenger window.
Yeah.
I have so many tabs and windows open.
So that's just the flat file plain text Micronews database as of the February 1st backup copy. It doesn't really matter what copy. I mean,
Right.
you need the last month's worth of updates.
Right. If I can get it now, I can always get an update later.
Yeah. But just be careful that you don't, if you find any private stuff that seems sensitive, don't go.
I'm not going to do anything with it unless I talk to you first, Barry.
You know. I doubt that there's anybody who would take issue, but you never know. Things about real names and stuff, because these were kids and they were using screen names instead of real names. So we knew their real name and the real email address as of the,
Yep.
that time. And a lot of people don't want their real names disclosed for activity that they did when they were teenagers,
Right.
just because they don't know
Okay,
what they
so
said
let me-
or did or whatever. And
This site cannot be reached. ahnc.usenet.info took too long to respond.
let me double check to make sure it's still running. Should be. Let me go to my,
Oh,
H-
now it's trying to download something called Feb01.
that's the correct thing. Yeah. Did it
Okay.
finally answer?
Insecure download blocked. I have to say go.
Yeah,
It's only
because
10. It's only 10 meg.
is that all it is?
Is it only 10 meg?
Well, let me just see if I can remember how
It
big it
says
is.
it's done, and it's only 10 meg.
Well, that might be right. Let me SSH into that thing. SSH dcourt at HNC. Oops. Oh, I got to go through an intermediate machine. Even that machine, the SSH is already obsolete. SSH admin at disk station. Got to go there first. Put in that password. Then from there, SSH to the court at HMC. It's really a pain when you've got to go through intermediate machines.
All right.
CD sites, ls-l, then star. It is, so both the zipped and the unzipped files are there. If you add .z, lowercase z, it's 4 megs. And if you don't do the .z, you get the plain text, it's 1094723. So 10, yeah, it's only 10 megs. It's nothing.
Okay, so
But
let me.
but if you add
bring
a
that
.z, you
down.
get the old-fashioned. That's not gzip. That's the old Unix Z.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want to get the. So if you add a .z, you get the 4 megs.
4082 KB. Interesting.
So
Okay,
have you opened it in? Have you opened it in a?
Not yet. I'm making a copy, so I can always get back to the copy.
Yeah. So like I say, feb01.mdb.lowercase z is the Unix compressed, not the gzip, but the Unix compressed, not the gunzip. Well, might be gunzip. I don't know. I guess gunzip will undo any kind of compression, including
Yep, I can see it now. So at 11 tilde 54856 ampersand 0 temporary storage facility. Yep, I'm seeing this.
So the first one is the what do you call it, the version of the database, because I version 11, and then the ampersand is the serial number of an object, and then the contents, and then a backslash that ends the object, and then ampersand the next serial number. So all the serial numbers of existing objects, they're in ascending order, but there will be gaps because any object that got thrown away, we just the number. So
Sure.
ampersand serial number contents of the object backslash
Okay.
in ascending order.
And the
And
greater than signs?
say again?
And the greater than signs?
The greater than signs, I
Like
forget.
greater than 38, and then a -1, then a 1, then a greater than 67, then a -1, then a 0, then a greater than 68, then a 0.00, then a greater than
I don't
89.
remember off the top of my head what the greater than prefixes refer to.
Hmm.
Well, if you see an XX gibberish, that's a Unix encrypted character password for a character. So the ones that are characters will have a character name, a character description, and down a little bit, capital X gibberish, and that's the Unix encrypted character password. And if you swap out that for a known one and restart the muse, then you can basically hack pretty much anybody's password, including the super. There's even a super user character. The
Okay, can you see my my
Yeah, I
window
can
now?
see that. Okay.
Yeah, so there's the beginning. This is
So
the
at
greater
11
than
is
sign.
version 11 of the database. Ampersand
Yep,
0 is the 0th character, 0th
yep.
room,
Object, right? Or room. Okay,
which happens to be a room. I'm not
okay.
sure how I'm not sure how you know it's a room. Maybe the greater than 6, I forget. I forget how you distinguish rooms from objects, from exits, from characters, but there's a way.
Oh, hey Sam, how goes?
Good.
This is probably going to bore Sam, so we should probably stop doing this.
Yeah, if you are you can you do a less or a search?
I can do a search, sure. What do you want me to
So
search for?
search for Molten with a capital M, Moulton with a capital M.
There's a molten.
I don't see it yet. Oh,
It's off to the
you
right.
want to
See,
find
off
you
to
want
the
to
right.
find it at the beginning of a at the beginning of keep searching. Actually, what's
Okay.
my number? 620. I think ampersand 622, I think is me. Try ampersand
Ampersand
622, I think is me.
All
Yep,
right.
there I am.
There we go.
That's my
Molten
actual character.
1182.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I'm serial number 622. That's my regular character.
Yeah.
And so I think you've gone past it. Oh no, that's
No, it's right here.
no,
Two
you're
nine
still
five
there.
seven. But anyway, we should probably stop this because
Yeah.
It's
we're
okay.
going to lose Sam.
Well, better yet, you don't want to give away any of the encrypted passwords.
Anyway, let me stop
Which
sharing
one?
now.
How is that not giving away?
Well, because if you would scroll down to an encrypted password
Uh-huh.
and somebody reads off the encrypted password, you could probably run that through some password decryptor and find it.
Got it. Got it. Okay, sounds good.
And I don't think I think with modern systems, it's not that hard to run a password decryptor against all the encrypted passwords we're talking about 1990s vintage Unix encryption. So
Wow.
we're talking about 8-character passwords, and
Okay.
probably all
Probably
letters
all uppercase.
They're all letters and numbers, upper and lowercase. Some of them are probably just simple words. And once you have decrypted a password, then you could log in as that character's name with the plain text and probably usurp them. Not that anybody's going to do that, but you basically want to be careful about it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna. Well, let me see. Yeah, I'm just gonna play around and see if I can parse it. But anyway, Sam, just to catch you up, AI Companion is turned on, so I don't know if you actually tried
Yeah, I
to
got
get
it.
a
I have
summary of it.
I do a catch up. It's saying that if Barry Code and Sam Chen are discussing accessibility, anyway, it's wrong.
Sam Chan. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Well, I'll copy and paste it to you, see, so that you see.
It's okay. Anyway, I don't know if you followed along in any of the texts that Eric was sending over the last week or so, but we
Yeah.
were talking about the effort that Eric put into resurrecting Barry's old system, and I was just,
Right.
Barry just gave me a copy. I mean, Barry just gave me a copy of the database, so I was gonna see if I could parse it in some way.
You got to be careful because, I mean, even though it's 20 or 30-year-old stuff, you still don't want to leak stuff that
I'm
some
not going to. I'm
teachers
not going to
did.
share anything except with you, okay? And if you want, I can even excise this portion of the shared screen.
Yeah, the database has the character name, their real name, their then real email address, their then encrypted password for their character. And that's probably pretty easy to unencrypt, but nowadays.
Okay.
What's the goal here? What's the mission here? What's the
Oh,
outcome?
for me, it's just getting me a little project so I can actually get back into programming. That's it. For Barry, he's already got a system running, so it has nothing to do with resurrecting Barry's system.
The
It's
point
just
is
getting
that
my
if the Solaris machine, the Ultra machine from 30 years ago dies, physically dies, or the hard drives physically die, if I wanted to ever keep it running, then I would either port it to another dialect of MUD, which is flaky, or I run an emulator that's emulating Solaris. But
You can get a replacement hard drive for the Solaris.
yes.
these are, what do you call them? What's the name of the technology?
Sam, do
S100.
you still have any in the closet?
I'm sure we can get
Um,
it eBay. No question about it. No
Is,
question.
is, is it,
I
I'm
mean, I
trying to
can
remember,
get floppy drive, 5.25-inch floppy drive for the new clip.
but it's not IDE drives. These are SCSI. These are SCSI technology, but there's two kind of SCSI. There's the 50-pin SCSI, and then there's
Yeah.
another one. What's the next
68
one?
pin.
What's it called?
It's 68 pin SCSI, ultra wide SCSI. So
With
that's
those clips at the end that are huge?
so there's one. Okay, that okay, so many things. There's one SCSI that you have to have a separate power cord. There's another type of SCSI, SCA, has a power cord built into the ribbon.
Yeah, I think is it SDA? Is that the nomenclature?
SCA.
SCA? Yeah, SCA. That's it. The Ultra machine uses SCA drives that they
Yeah.
slip in and
Yeah.
into and the SCA. I guess you can still get SCA drives. I don't know. They're not cheap.
I can get you one, whatever you need.
Sam's the guy, Barry. Sam is the
All right.
guy.
Well, if you've got SCA drives collecting dust or SCSI drives collecting
I'm
dust,
sure I have some in the garage myself. So all I need is part number, size, and that's it.
I had one Spark 10 machine that the power supply died.
All right.
And I didn't attempt to repair the power supply. So I basically turned off, and that one was the FTP server. And I think first of all, the hard drive died, and then I think the power supply died.
Power
And I
supply
did
is easy. Power supply is easy. I mean, it's 12 volt and 5 volt minus.
no.
minus-
The Spark 10
It's complicated.
mainboard power supply.
Yeah.
It's a thing this big.
It's a break. Yes, a break. Yeah.
It's a break. So anyhow, and I never tried to, find the burned out capacitors because it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah. I mean,
And then when various drives died, I used a Synology disk station as an NFS server. So I put the local drive on an NFS server, and I got that to work with Solaris. So I only have one or two drives left that are physical drives, and everything else is NFS off the Synology. Because
yeah.
I had backed up, the directories, at least the local directory I had backed up. And I had backed up the user directory. I don't think I backed up the FTP directory. I think I neglected to save the FTP directory.
So one of the main reasons I joined is because I want to talk to you guys about bring this conversation to the next level and with more people. Interested?
Yeah, I think we've unless Eric is here, there's not that much interest in the 1990s edition of Muses.
Yeah. Right. So I co-founded Conscious Leadership Guild 4 years ago, and we have about close to 100 members that has supposedly the goal is to have 2-person interview a person, and then the 2-person endorse a person, and now they become a member. And the goal is to have a structure of we have a third is consultant, a third is academia, and a third is executive. So far we're doing well and busy. I'm just like keeping me really busy on all that stuff. I'm the only quote unquote CTO on it. So I look at it from twofold perspective. I could use a help on the CTO department, and that's one. The other part is that I can also look at it from the perspective of, a lot of material that we have here. If you want a long-term storage and whatever, we can create an infrastructure so that will store not for us, but also for the members as well. So it's like, okay, if you're a member, we get to store your thing, and I can come up with a few Synology servers and all that stuff. So a long term, we are switching over from to the 501c, so that we're serving the public now. So pretty soon I should be able to get about. I was told that I'm supposed to get about $250,000 worth of free software from Microsoft and Google, so that I don't have time to make use of everything. I could use some help to leverage what it is and create greater goods on that stuff. So that's a place. So my thinking is that creating two Synology server on both location and plus an external drive, that maybe two external drive installed in two separate locations, so that we can continue on. My goal is to be able to create something, infrastructure, IT perspective, technical perspective, for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
We
I
can
have
keep-
an older version of Synology.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We can buy a new one. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that my version of Synology has internally two 500 gig drives as a RAID, so it's only
Right.
one net 500, and then you can plug in USB 2
Right.
on the output side. So my Synology is only got about a gig or so of storage on it. It could have more if I had bigger drives to put in it,
Right.
but I
So
don't.
the goal is to have Synology as a file server, as an email server, as an FTP server, as a storage, as a website hosting, those
Yeah.
kind of things. So the goal is how could we consolidate all our know-how and make full use of it to benefit more, not just, my goal is to, you remember, we might go to 500 to 1,000 as time goes. So I'm not interested to get a lot of people right now. I'm just focusing on serving the 100 members right now and slowly build a solid foundation so that we can stack on it. So it's like, that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So
As a team.
As a team. So I'm looking at this organization, and I'm looking at a lot of time we're spending with. I have a lot of groups here with the diversity group. We have the environmental group. We have resource group. We have, you name it. We have a lot of different groups already, and the European group and the Africa group and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, how could we work together? The last thing I want to do is have someone start another organization, not call themselves non-profit, and then start another branch. Of like, come on, guys, come together so we can energize and help each other, stand on each other's shoulder, and then continue on. Believe me, if you want, you can spend 40 hours a week just on Zoom call to keep you busy. If that's what you want, it's like a lot of things can be done. The goal is to how could we help each other so that we can learn from each other and be able to take that knowledge and be able to expand it out and benefit the greater good. So that's the mission of the guild, is to learn from each other, co-learning, co-mentoring, co-unlearning, whatever you call that, and how do we doing greater goods for the world. So if you guys are interested,
Well, if you want people who know how to work on Synologies or servers or Unix machines or Linux machines, I've got a fair amount of know-how, not super level, but modest level. And I have, I won't say unlimited time, but I'm retired, so I got plenty of time. But I'm not as good as the experts are.
Yeah, no worry. I back up. The Synology Tech Support Manager is, my friend, and Benjamin I can get to him 2 seconds.
Okay.
I have a lot of resources. Let me put it this way: whatever you don't have, I have. Whatever you have, I don't have. That's the goal. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay.
You'll say something.
2 questions. The other groups that you have, is there a lot of, let's say, recorded material like Zoom
Yeah.
sessions, video
Yeah.
sessions, etc.?
I'm the one that's
And,
storing it. Yeah.
Right. So in other words, I was just asking for clarification. The 7 or 8 years worth of GCC calls and collaborology calls could go into this facility that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Now, actually, I think that's great because I'm close to hitting the limit of the Google account that I'm using, which I pay for. But yeah, I don't mind paying for it. It's just that
Yeah.
it just scales,
Right.
So if there's a way to get it into something else, then that's one, at least an area of redundancy, and not to mention that it might be even safer and
Yeah,
provide some
redundancy
good
is
sharing.
really important to me because unless you have redundancy,
That's right.
single point of failure, I call it multiply by 0 factor.
That's
This
right.
is where I can help because I can house here
Right.
a redundant server that's a low traffic, but a backup server. So if you've
Right.
got stuff that you want to store not in your location, but on the East Coast,
Right.
as long as I'm around and on the internet, I can park a Synology
Yeah.
server or any kind of
Right.
on a server in my house, and I'm on 100 megabit internet, which is not super fast, but it's okay for backup.
For all practical purposes, it's fine. I'm not worried about too much about bandwidth because I can always store everything on the external hard drive and ship the external drive to you.
Yeah.
Bypass
So-
all the bandwidth problem.
So if
Right.
you want an backup servers or just a physical backup storage that's
Yeah.
not in California, in case California falls into the ocean, you can send it to me, and as long
Right.
as I'm alive, which will be probably another 15 years.
Well, you not only you provide location, you know, like, let's say you have technical know-how 80%, okay, which I can cover up the other 20% for you. And then not only that, you are also a very good scientist, you're technology, you're system thinker. I tell you, a lot of members would love you to have a long conversation with you. You give a different perspective that most people don't have, right? I mean, how many people you know of that have your perspective? Come on.
Well, I've been told that I'm sui generis. Well, in a class by myself, one of a kind. And I can't disprove that
That's
until
right.
until AI clones me.
But until then, people can benefit from your unique perspective that nobody else had. As I say, okay, the idea is to be able to, how could we bring this so that we can collaborate in such a way that benefit the greater goods, the greater, the humanity. And that's
Don't
what
wait too long because I'm almost 80 years old. I don't
age
have
is,
that many.
age is irrelevant. You're taking a Centrum, you're taking your blood pressure pill, you measure your blood pressure, you're good to go for another 20, 30 years. Trust me, 20, 30 years is easy. Did you, I'm sure you hear in your backyard in Boston, you have your pig kidney installed, right?
My what installed?
Big kidney.
Pig kidney?
Pig kidney. Oh,
Yeah.
no, I don't have my pig kidney installed in my backyard.
Boston hospital just on Wednesday have a pig kidney installed.
I saw that the guy had a new kidney custom, what's the word? Cultivated in a pig.
Yeah,
A human kidney custom cultivated inside it. I heard that story that
yeah,
he just got it installed and it's already peeing on him.
yeah, got it. And he stopped off the dialysis machine. I mean, come on. You can have a pig heart, pig kidney. What else you need to have?
I can't have a pig brain. That's not going to work. And I
Don't know
can
about that
tell
one.
that my cognitive faculties are declining, especially recall. Memory storage, information recall is degrading.
Yeah, agree.
Although I can look it up, sometimes I can look it up, but sometimes I don't know how to, I fail to look stuff up that I used to know.
Well, that's why AI comes in. AI have unlimited and, impeccable memories.
Well, but it confabulates a lot too.
Yeah.
It doesn't confabulate.
We can have other AI that checks that.
Yeah.
Well, certainly if you confabulate an article that I purportedly wrote in a journal that never existed, you can tell it's confabulated.
So let me do the following, Sam. Let me review your offer, which is a generous one. I'm going to just write up a few bullet points about what I think I heard, okay? And if it's something that's consistent with what you offered, I'm all in. I think this is great. I think this is one way to get more energy, more visibility, more participation, more diversity, more difference of opinion / perspective. I think that's all very, very good.
Thank you. And I'm the secretary. So
Not to mention which I have probably almost as much Linux experience, if not more, in certain areas than Barry. So I grew up in that world. I didn't grow up in the Windows world. Okay.
yeah. So I would need some kind of, I don't want to use the word resume, but more like LinkedIn page or something that can introduce yourself. So I would get another person, members, to talk to you and interview you or whatever you call that, calibrate, whatever. So, and once they agree with it, then we endorse you to the club. And the member fees is $400 for the first year. The second year is $200, but that one we can talk about on the side. Sometimes we can take care of it for you. It's not worry about that.
You can compass.
Yeah, I can come to you on that. Yeah, not worry about it.
I just shared a about page for myself that's
Okay, thank you.
almost up to date. Not really up to date, but
Okay.
got some stuff.
But I'm happy to put antique technology back into functional service, module the availability of replacement parts, if there's any reason to have antique technology running.
So
But I
there's
think it sounds to me a small aspect of what Sam is talking about, right? That
Well,
is
you were talking
interesting.
about running NLS. Was it NLS? What was the name of the system?
Yes,
Online
Doug
system.
Engelbart's NLS, but
Yeah,
that's also a very side minor part
Right.
of it.
The thing is, if you want to reprise antique systems through emulation or whatever, that's something that I can play with, provided we can get access to relevant hardware and relevant software, to reprise it. But whether you can, for example, find a port of NLS that runs on DEC system 10 or 20, that's who knows. All I know is that it was last ported to, I think, DEC system 20. But who knows if that
this
software.
is our hosting website for introducing the organization. I will give you a website where we put our information that you can share with the public.
I see a login, but I don't see a register link. So
Yeah,
you have to be sponsored, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something that yeah.
Got it. Do you want me to take this link out of the transcript when we?
No, it's fine. You can,
Okay.
feel free. I mean, all members of our members here are welcome, so it's like, yeah, it's all good.
Okay. All right.
Again, I'm
I think
looking for members, I'm looking for help, I'm looking for someone I can help you with, something I can be beneficial to you. So mutual contribution is what I'm looking for. So that's what we call co-learning, co-mentoring, co-resourcing.
so. Can you characterize the current membership? What's the mix of people? It'd be interesting to understand that.
Sure. So one of them is Michael Ray. He's a professor in Stanford, retired, I think 20 years ago, something like that. He's very close to me. He lived in Santa Cruz, so he's expert in learning. He's expert subject on psychologies and group dynamic and system thinking. So that's Michael Ray's. And we got let's see here. I'm not allowed to tell people. Anyway, you're going to meet a lot of people that's super smart professor. One of them is Olympic, multiple gold medals, and professor as well. So, and lots of people. If you I cannot record it, but I'm going to share with you, separately if you're interested in more names on that. Anyway, people are in the high caliber, high energy, smart people, and love to contribute and all that stuff. So we are in the field in the conscious leadership, so I say in the top in terms of US in the world, and some of them are running those organizations and creating all that stuff. So this is why, like 4 years ago, I was like something. The founder called me up, Sam, I'm thinking about creating this organization. Like, okay, I don't know if I'm conscious, but you say I'm conscious. I say, well, I'm so glad you certified me. I had no idea.
That's what I was about to say. I'm honored that you even extend the invitation.
Yeah. So I look at it as how far we going to go, how long we going to go, and we could use more energy. I can use diversification. We could use more resources. We could use more knowledge. We could use more, interaction going on. So it will expand the full 2 hours, 4 hours a week to 20 hours a week. Trust me, it's easy, instantly.
Is there a current meeting schedule slash
Yeah,
recurring online thing?
it's
Okay.
for members only for now. So we
I
have
know, I know.
we have some members. If you're interested, we have some public event that if you're interested, I'll invite you on that. So I'll send you the information privately. Let me take your thing about. I'll make sure I got your information. Sorry, maybe I can't talk and type at the same time. Yeah, so any question you ask me, so basically we create an environment where we have safe confirmation, so we are in the same level and also safe. Everybody has their own, knowledge, wisdom to share. And the idea is how could we co-learning from each other, co-mentoring from each other for all that stuff. So that's the whole idea behind it.
And occasionally, I would presume it's not just online, but once in a while you get
Yeah,
together face
once
to
a
face.
year, twice a year. One will be in Netherlands and one will be here in the US. Get together. Usually about 30 to 40 people come together, fly over to Netherlands and whatever. For me, I don't fly anytime. I just if you're within 100 miles radius here, I'm there. Anything outside that, I'm beyond me. Yeah. So
I've never been to the Netherlands, but I do have friends there I'd like to visit.
yeah, Netherlands is a member get together this time if you're interested. So usually about 3 or 4 days, 3 days get together, all that stuff. But you don't need to be there. It could be on a Zoom call. Well, we have a Monday Zoom call. We have a weekly something. We have bi-weekly something. And believe me, you have more than you want to know. So
I believe
you
it.
create your own. You can create your own group. You can join the other groups. You can look at the history of the Zoom call. I have all the record of all that. So again, it's like, yeah.
You said you got affiliated about 4 years ago, you said?
Yeah, I co-founded this organization. Yeah. I mean, actually, it's more like a couple years before pandemic. So it's more like 5 years, 6 years. I don't keep track of time. I'm terrible with time. If you ask me what year, what happened, like all I know is the year I was born and the year I graduated from college. That's about it. Or the year I married.
I was about to bring that one up. Yes.
The rest, if you ask me, Second World War, when it started, when it ends, like no idea.
Yeah. Or when you entered this country.
Yeah, one that country. Yeah, those big events I know. You may not believe it. So I don't even know my birthday until I was in high school. We don't celebrate birthdays.
Because in Asia, it's always New Year's Day, right? It's not the birthday that's significant.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, well, I understand that. Okay, good. I'll write you a few bullets. All right.
Thank you.
Hey, by the way, speaking of that, I wasn't because of this, but actually on a separate topic, I was gonna invite you to celebrate with me. I just ran across this a couple of days ago on Monday, which is the 25th, right?
Okay.
It's I think the 10-year anniversary of a patent that I was awarded 10
Mm.
years ago.
Wow.
I've got a handful of patents, but this one actually just popped up in my calendar, so I thought it was kind of cool. You know how patents are written, right? They're very obscure, and they're written so that they're not really understandable by anybody other than the patent examiner.
Yeah.
So if you actually go, it's going to look like, what is this? But it's pretty cool. It's part of a co-browse thing that I did with the company about 10 years ago.
Nice. Well, the only thing about patent they have any teeth at all is when somebody try to bite it away from you. Unless you can fight it and protect it, patent means nothing. It's like birth certificate. It's only useful.
Other than an ego stroke.
Yeah, you got it.
That's right.
I wasted a lot of money and time on it. So like most,
Oh yeah.
I'm the best patent lawyer in the world to help me. Like, it doesn't matter.
Back then, it used to cost like $10,000 or $12,000 just to even go for a patent, and now it's probably way more than that.
Yeah, when I went through this about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, went through 3 or 4 cycles of $10,000. And then it's like, okay, my client Samsung is taking, a lot of my time. I don't have time to deal with you. Or something along the line. I say, forget it, give it up. Anyway,
You ever do provisional? Provisional is a cheap way to get a date filed.
yeah, it's not important again. I give that up already. Whatever I can create for the world, take it, share it, useful. Yeah.
So just so you understand, I think a part of these GCC and CSG calls going back to about 2017, I think even on YouTube, there's probably between 800 and 900 2-hour videos now.
Wow.
So it'll take a while to even transfer those.
Yeah. I'm not sure you know or not, in the Chat GDP 4.0 now you have the YouTube GDP that's very useful. Even though you don't have transcript, you will actually talk to it and grab the transcript out and all that stuff. So I've been summarizing a lot of video that I don't have time to watch and summarizing. Yes.
That's why I've saved all these videos, posted these videos, make sure the transcripts are available, because I knew sooner or later this technology would make it all useful.
Yeah, they won't read the facial expression yet.
Soon.
Yeah.
In fact, there's sentiment analyzers already out there doing this, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can say, what has Sam Chan said over the last year or so on this topic, and it'll just tell me everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But that's also from the academia perspective, which Barry would appreciate this, is that a lot of fine details, the difference that make different, the summary doesn't cut it. It's like,
That's right.
You have to watch the actual video and pay attention to every little thing, and look at the speaker, how the facial expression, and get the point across. Otherwise, it's no way. Especially something on medical and scientific, it's like the difference that make difference is so tiny that unless you're expert subject on matters, doesn't cut it. It's just it's sort of like airplane. You cannot get the path of where you fly, but you can get to know where the destination is and where the starting point is. About it, whatever in between, and it cross the borderline or not, you can't tell from unless you have detailed GPS tracker all the way.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, have you guys, I think I've mentioned the name Douglas Carmichael to you guys before, right? He's someone I do respect. And he posts a few thoughts.
I couldn't tell you who he is.
He's got a degree in physics. He's actually been a counselor. He's been an economist. He's basically a consultant, but he wrote something yesterday that I thought was pertinent to the comment that Sam just made. If I may, I'll take 30 seconds to read that.
Go ahead.
He said, if I write a question to a chatbot and get a good answer, and they tend to be good, I instinctively listen for the person who wrote it. But there's no one there. The resulting text feels to me boring because I'm not looking for good text, but a simpatico mind. The reason to participate in the conversation is to be with other people, not to get a good text. The other reason GP, TPP, whatever I am in my life, I may never have been. Caltech was not for me just getting credits, but enjoying getting to know the world through the personalities. So I thought that was a good perspective on interaction, not just with information, but with entities, with people who live, with people who actually can share perspective. And I think that's a level beyond where people want to have interaction. You know, some questions that I ask, in fact, most of the questions I ask are not for the answer. I'm looking for someone who actually potentially is interested in the way that question reveals a train of thought, a way of thinking. So I just thought that would be an interesting thing to share with you guys.
Just like every conversation, there's so many levels of conversation. One is the one that's most commonly needed is the connection. I'm connecting with you, you know, I have a conversation. Then the second one is that, you know, you try to justify whether you look good, you want smarter than other people, or whatever, there's a justification. And then there's logic that you can learn something from and all that stuff. So there are so many perspectives. My favorite example was this. They actually did a SEAL, Navy SEAL, right? You know how they pick the best SEAL in the team? The nicest
Yes, I do.
guy. The nicest guy. The nicest guy always went to the top SEAL. It's like, what the hell? SEAL has nothing to do with nicest guy. SEAL is supposed to
I don't think they call it nice, though. I don't think nice is the word they use.
Yeah, they call it the best SEAL, whatever you call it. Yeah, I call it nicest because they convince, because they interact and they smile.
I read something. I think Simon Sinek has a very good blog on this and an anime, a video on this. He talked about performance and trust.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one that I remember, because
Yeah.
high trust is where they go for. Those are the people they recruit into the
High
SEALs.
trust. Okay, the question is, how do you trust a person? Because the guy is nice to you and you can trust the guys. Unless a jerk cannot be trusted. How's that? Or less likely to be trusted. So you won't get get the top, you know, SEAL.
Yeah. And in particular, and I have to say it in this day and age, a liar cannot be trusted.
Until you figure it out, you have no idea to know.
By the way, in response to your point there, I wanted to put something which I don't exactly know where it came from. Before I care how much you know, I want to know how much you care. That connection, your value.
Before I care about how much you know. Well, depend on what perspective, you know. One is, if you talk to a brain surgeon, before I let you touch my brain, before I care about how much you know, unless you graduate from the right school, I don't even want to talk to you. Whether you care about me or not is irrelevant. There's always a, how do I say, it's always what I call priority. Like, you know, depending on what structure it is. If you go with the wrong priority, then it's not it.
So I'm going to write up these bullets. I appreciate the invitation. I'm excited to find out how this could go. And Barry, thank you for sending the file to me. I'll play around with it. And it's close to the top of the hour.
If you discover anything interesting by parsing the MDB file, let me know what you've found. I've parsed them before, but nothing profound comes out of them.
One question: the MDB file, since it's a MUD structure and there are other MUDs, I presume somewhere there's documentation about that file structure.
Good luck. The documentation is the source code is the documentation, and so for example, that happens to be version 11 of TinyMuse file structure. God knows what the first 10 versions were. Every time they add a new feature where they have to add something new to the database that wasn't in the old database, they change the version number, and most of them are, the only person who knows it is the guy who wrote the code, the source code. I mean, Eric asked the same question: is the structure of the database documented? And if it is, it's going to be somewhere either in the source code itself or in comments, associated with the source code. And I never did source code programming, so I have the source code. I just never studied it to see what's in it.
Yeah, I just did a search for Tiny News. It didn't come up with anything.
What do you think it called mud?
Multi-user
dungeon, right?
domain, multi-user dungeon. The D could be domain or dungeon. They backronymed to domain, because initially they were basically dungeons. They were basically game dungeons. But when they went to the new stuff, then they said, well, dungeon's sort of misleading, just call it domain. They call them worlds, virtual worlds, virtual reality, virtual worlds, virtual domains. And dungeon is a little bit of a primordial term. I mean, Rogue, you remember the Rogue game? That was considered a dungeon, right? That was the
How about
aspect.
dungeons? I remember I've managed to find some boxes of games, and I had no idea these are like people are loving it. It's like they're willing to pay $100 for this 5.25-inch floppy disk game that come in the almost like a dungeon string wrap package. I think I still have like maybe 20 or 30 upstairs in my storage room. I kept them, and they say that they have inside. I think it says in the cassette in the floppy disk. There are like 10 or 20 games that they are all text games. They are super good around the world. I'll find it next time we have a conversation.
Yeah, the Zork series and others that were sort of Zork-like. There was a company, I don't know if I can remember the name of the company now, that published Zork and the similar Zork-like games back in the 80s when everything was text-based.
Yeah, everything's text-based, and it's like I hate text games. Like drive me crazy. You make sure you're spelling correctly, and you have no keep track of everything. There's so many what I call levels of translation and virtualization. It's like I give up.
Yeah, the Colossal Cave adventure game, I think, was one of the early sort of dungeon style text games. It was written by a guy at BBN, the first version of it, and then a guy at Stanford AI Lab expanded it and eventually became Colossal Cave Adventure. But I actually knew the guy at BBN who wrote the very first version of Colossal Cave Adventure.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So are you taking more walks nowadays, Barry?
So you're thinking more works nowadays. That doesn't parse.
No. No. Are you taking more walks?
Taking more walks. Well, actually, right now it's raining and it's freezing outside. In fact, when I came home last night from D&D, there was actually snow on the ground. A very, very thin layer, but the precipitation was literally below freezing for like an hour or two late last night.
Last week, isn't it nice weather last week?
We had a few days of nice weather, except windy as hell.
Yeah.
So the warm days were really windy. And then now it's rainy this weekend. Now maybe we will get some warm, sunny, non-windy days where to go out and take a walk sort of makes sense. But the last week or two that it really hasn't. You to go out and pick up the mail. I go, it's cold and windy. Thursday was really windy.
Yeah, same here. Cold and windy and shit.
And
But
in fact, in the Midwest, I think they had a snowstorm in the upper Midwest yesterday.
yeah. Yesterday was especially chilly and windy. So when I walk outside, it's like, oh, so cold and chilly. But I managed to take half an hour walk outside anyway.
I was surprised to see snow on the ground at 1 o'clock in the morning last night here, where I came home from playing D&D, where at the guy's house, which is just 10 miles south, it was raining. When I got here, it was snowing. 10-mile difference north-south.
Yeah, depends on which side of the hill you are living, or which side of the near ocean, or near ocean, or not far away from.
I'm the northwest suburbs, so slightly north of Newton. Not a lot, just enough that there was snow on the ground here.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's top of the hour. You came in late though today.
Yeah,
Anyhow, if you're interested in having any of this, the 1990s era stuff, like I've got Spark machines that are defunct because I ran out of parts, ran
yeah,
out of hard drives, the power supplies died, and I basically just retired them because I didn't really need to run them, but
right. You might want to put it on the face on eBay and get rid of them so somebody could use it.
oh, the thing is that they weigh a ton, so shipping those things are going to
No,
cost you.
no, basically just say put it on, we'll pick up one in no shipping.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe so.
Yeah,
It's
somebody
not-
might want to use it in a museum or somebody want to show and tell class or something that could use it because you need to clean up the house. Otherwise, what happened when when you're not around, people will like, oh, there's a lot of space taking up.
Yeah, well, more likely they have this e-waste recycling once a year, where
Right,
you could take all your e-waste to the recycling center one weekend a year. The thing is that I would need a pickup truck because what I could fit in my trunk of my passenger cars is only a
right,
small amount.
limited, yeah.
If I could pack it into a van, I could take, a van load of it on some recycling day.
Right. So I thought about Synology server. So probably need one Synology server in your side and then external hard drives, which is away from the Synology drive in case something happened to the Synology drives. So
Like, for example, I have an older version of the Synology drive that was obsolete. And so when a friend of mine bought the new version, he sent me his old version, gave me his old version. And I
right,
put a couple of 500 gig drives in it in RAID because that's
yeah.
all I had to put in it. I still don't, I mean, I have some terabyte drives laying around, but probably what would like to have is maybe a pair of terabyte drives in it in RAID.
Right, that's easy. That's easy.
And then it has a USB 2 port.
Right, that's slow.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a USB 3 external drive, but it won't talk to USB 3. I plugged it in, it wouldn't recognize it.
USB 3 drive is supposed to talk to USB 2 port because it's downward compatible.
For all I know, that USB port might only be a USB 1 port because I plugged in a USB
3.
3 drive and it didn't see it.
Hmm. Anyway, you have stuff on the 500 gig.
Yeah, the 500 gig drives are basically full of stuff.
Yeah.
Then I have another RAID drive that's also got 500 gigs in it, and it's basically full. And I mean, I could go through and say, well, this can all be thrown away. It's obsolescent, but it's just not worth it to go
Yeah.
through and figure out what to throw away.
Same
But
here.
I use them. I use them as the time. What's it called? What the hell do you call it?
Backup.
Time backups. What's the name of the time backup?
Active backup.
Time machine. What's it called? Time machine. I use them as my time machine backups for several of my
A time machine is a language they use by the Apple computer.
Apple. Yeah, so you can use a Synology as your time machine network backup.
Yeah.
And
So
you
you
can
don't use all
you can
the
also
VPN server and all that stuff, right?
VP. I don't,
VPN server.
what's a VPN server? Virtual private network server?
Yeah, well, what's your private network? Yeah, open VPN.
I mean, I used to use MIT to get into VPN, but what would you do with it in your house?
Well, typically there are a couple of things. So if you want someone to come in to your Synology server to access the files privately, so you sort of like think of it like VPN will give you someone come to your house and plug a network cable into their laptop so that they can see your Synology drive. So VPN will actually, let's say someone in Connecticut want to come.
Oh, well, if I'm not mistaken, I think the web server on Synology, which doesn't have anything on it, is accessible on port 88, I think.
But that's what accessing, like browsing, but not someone want to copy and download. Like again, if I want to copy something and put something into your Synology drive, I have
Yeah.
2 ways to do it. One way to do it is
Yeah.
I'll come to your house,
Right.
plug the network cable into it, and you give me the username password, and then I can now log at your Synology drive, right?
Oh, I see. So if I ran a VPN server, somebody could connect to it and then they would have access to my LAN.
Exactly, right. So that's what the VPN server is supposed to do for you.
Yeah. Is VPN server one of the options, one of the packages on
Yep,
Synology?
it's one of it. Yeah, it's called VPN server.
I'll have to look because if it's a package, remember I have an older
Yeah.
edition of Synology, so I don't remember what's on it.
So you can just install the Synology. So you just Google them, it teach you how to do it. So it's install Synology VPN server package. So you pick open VPN and
Yeah.
then you come up with a configuration file and username password. So
I
so 3 things
remember,
you can have.
if I remember, I think it's version 4.2 of I don't remember. Sort of 4.2 comes to mind. I'd have to log into it and see what the hell.
Anyway, so basically you can now go to everybody's house with a VPN, username password. So that is how we access our company's computer stuff. That's how we do it.
Let's see, if I'm logged into this station with SSH, what command can I type at text to find out what version it is? What's the command for finding the version of Unix you're on?
I don't remember. So the way I do is I go to the user
Oh,
interface.
uname minus A. Let's see what uname. Linux disk station 2.6.32.12 generated in 2017. So it's got the 2017 edition of the
Synology.
of the of the Unix thingy, but that's not the model number of the hardware. ARM v5 Tel. I don't know. I'd have to go to a different thingy and find it. I'd have to go to the web interface to find out.
Yeah, web interface is the easiest way to deal with it. Yeah.
If I go to the web, and where's the web inter up here? Let's see. If I go to disk, let me just see. Disk station. Spelled right. Disk station 5000. Oh, there it is. Disk station 5000. Now, where do I find out my version? Information? No.
No.
Oh, here it is. DSM 4.2. Synology DSM 4.2
Do
is
you see
what's.
there's a package called VPN server?
Let me see. Let me go to the package center. Package center. Well, it's loading. Audio, BitTorrent, Cloud, DNS, iTunes, Media, Photo Station, Video Station. Well, it's not in a package. What else could it be in?
You might need to download the package. Unless you download it, it's not in your package.
Let's see, what else installed? That's what's installed. Where else can I?
The directory.
Let me just see if I can figure out. Oh, no, here we go. All Doku Wiki, GLPI, Joomla, MediaWiki, Orange HRM, OS Ticket, PHP vTiger CRM, WordPress. That's all that is in the all department.
You can do a search on the top line. You do a search, you type in the word VPN.
VPN, let's see what VPN. Put in a search for VPN. No match is found.
Okay, so you don't have it.
I think DSM 4.2 doesn't provide it. Yeah, well, I see. Oh, I see. They're just, this Explorer is version. So all the packages do not include VPN package. Unless something like vTiger, I don't know what these stand for. vTiger CRM, I don't know what that is. Free, fully featured, open source CRM. I don't even know what CRM stands for.
CRM is customer relationship manager.
Let's see. Doku Wiki, GLPI, Joomla, MediaWiki, Orange HRM, OS Ticket, PHP vTiger, and WordPress. That's it. That's all that's available. No VPN on this thing. And I don't know that you can hack anything into it that's not among, I mean, maybe you can suck down something and make it by hand, but I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. Let me hear. There's a control panel. Let's see what's in the control panel.
Yeah, there's a VPN for 4.2. DSM 4.2 VPN, my notes.
Oh, there it is. Okay, application. Yeah, VPN is in the control panel.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, so you can set it up.
So there's a VPN in the control panel.
So what it does is that when you're in the, what do you call that? Like, for example, when you're in the Toastmaster, you need a file that you forgot to bring with you and all that stuff. You can just VPN into your own house and you can just grab it. It's very convenient.
Yeah, see this, I think this is the last version of DSM that runs on this particular hardware model, 4.2.
You will not allow
It
you to
does
upgrade.
include VPN. Let's see, I can do it. So it has a create and delete. I don't know, but I'd have to go through them and see what the hell they do.
So you can just Google how to set up VPN or DSM 4.2 and it's pretty straightforward. This is what everybody's using when they travel. Everybody's using that VPN nowadays. And you just focus on using the Open VPN. Don't use anything else because Open VPN is much easier to set up, more reliable, and all. You got two-factor authentication, all that stuff. You're back, Sam. Welcome back.
After you guys are done, I wanted to ask you a technical support question. Hopefully it's simple.
Sure.
Are you guys done?
I guess so.
I have an HP ZBook.
HPG book is a Firefly.
Yeah. And so I charged it and it doesn't power on. So is that a battery problem? I tried multiple different chargers.
Doesn't power on.
Yeah. So
You get in those stuck states. So I would remove the battery. You know how to remove battery, right? There are two types of
I can
battery.
find out.
Yeah, so there are two types of battery. One is built in, the other one is just slide it out. And the one that's built in is pain in the butt to remove them. The one that you can just slide out, just leave it out for a couple of hours or whatever, and then put it back in and see if it does anything.
Okay,
What's-
I'll try that.
Yeah, so those are the, if you're in this, they call it suck state. Is it, Firefly ZBook has 3-year warranty. You should be able to call them.
I'll check and see when I got it. See, I can see that the tip on the end of the charger is lit up. So I know there's power coming from the wall, but when I push the power button, nothing happens. So
Yeah,
I
you
have
got
to-
you got a stuck state.
yeah. I'll try that next. Anyway,
Yeah, so ZBook cannot power on. Let's see what it says here.
I like it. It's a 64 gig ZBook, but I have to
Yeah, it's a
power
nice
it on to get any value out of it.
Press and hold the power button on the keyboard for at least 30 seconds. Release it, wait
I
10
tried that.
You,
I did try that.
yeah, just take the battery out. That's the easiest way.
Okay, very good. Next step.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Looking forward to the next step, Sam. Looking forward to playing around with your file, Barry.
Yeah, let me know if you come up with anything interesting.
Are you
It'll
making
probably
progress,
take a while.
Barry, on your VPN?
Sorry?
Are you downloading a VPN package?
No, it's already installed. It's an existing option in the control panel,
Okay, got it. Okay.
which I haven't figured out how to. There's just a create button, but I haven't clicked it to see what it means.
Okay. You good?
I mean, I can only try it. Let me go to control panel, go to VPN. If I click create, VPN connection method, please select connection method, PPTP or OpenVPN. So you
Open
say
VPN. OpenVPN, yeah.
So I say next. Now it says profile name, connection, server address, username, password, certificate.
Yeah, those are the few things that you need to play with. If you want, you just Google how to set it up, and somebody have it on a YouTube video and just tell you what to do, and that's the easiest way to do it.
So server address is, what is server address supposed to be? The public address of this server?
Yep, yeah, you find out by
It has a public address. It's on my local area network. It doesn't have a public address, does it?
well, the easiest way you can do is just what's my IP, on the Google. Give you that.
I know the public address of my ISP server, whatever you call it, but the Synology is just a device here in my local network. Oh, I don't know what to put in for server address. Username and password.
That's again, those are the credentials for you to.
I'll have to figure it out. I don't know. I'll just put cancel for now. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Local
Yeah.
network.
Let me give you the link that I found that's useful for what you need. Let me send it to you in message here. Okay, so that's this guy teaching you how to install the VPN server if you're interested. Set up VPN open source.
That feeling you get when you're getting an incredible deal. When you're spending. All right, how's it going, Neil? Today, this is a tutorial I made a while ago, and I've been planning on remaking this for a long time because a ton has changed. And that is going to be how to set up an open VPN server on your Synology NAS.
All right, so I have that available to watch.
Yeah, anyway, have fun with it. So basically, again, it's basically give you access to your local hard drive securely wherever you are.
So I can log into my NAT to my Synology via VPN, and then I have access to the world.
Yep, everything. You can do everything and everything. It's again, the easiest thing you think of is like, it's as if you're in the house.
Yeah. What I got to figure out is what to put in for the IP address, because it doesn't have its public IP
Yeah,
address.
so this video will tell you what to do. This video will tell you what to do.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, my
Okay.
friend. I'll join you tomorrow for probably in an hour. I gotta get going.
Okay.
I'll
Thanks.
see you. Okay, bye.
Bye. So let's save text. Save the chat. I didn't save the other one. The transcript. All right. I'm gonna exit here. Leave.
Okay, Barry, I'm shutting down since I heard you guys end.
Yep, we're done.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.